Outlaw RBG.
It's December 13th, the birth of a
The
king.
most important thing in business is honesty, integrity, hard work.
Outlaw RBG. Zalute.
Never forgetting where we came from. Thank you, Sean. So you are what you are in this world. That's either one or two things. Either you're somebody, or you're nobody.
I am Malcolm X. I am the best. I'm fresh, so God bless. Cold nonetheless. Yes, I am the one they call hip-hop the living proof. Coming to you live in your living room. They call it criminal, my activism. So I speak, keep it cash from going back to prison. Reaching out, giving facts to children. Now we gotta stack cheese and get back to business. No, I'm not religious. Came from Shot City where the G's from Grover Development was organized in the street. So I'm so ready for war that I would ride in my sleep. My spirit has been aligned with the rhymes and the beat. So when they say I'ma die, then they lie through their teeth. Eternally ballin', I'm alive as we speak. Survive through the heat, so we shine spectacular. Move to the south, cause the south is New Africa. Atlanta, capital city, I call it top city. I speak of self-determination, join me if you ready. We want it and we deadly with a warrior culture. Revolutionary summer to summer. Some of the ways to build wealth include a barbershop and a restaurant. Then some land to supply the groceries. Then we buy the grocery. Electricians and some people that paint. Locksmiths, then we can build a bank. Then once we build a bank, we can build a military. And a school so we can teach the little revolutionaries. And then we need developers. Of course they gon' be scared of us. They fear us currently, and we don't have the urgency to build a nation trading short-term seniority for long-term authority. Put it in the poetry from the griots to people, cause we hope to evoke the spirit of Haiti, 1804. Yeah. Man. Run it back, guillotine production. Run it back, guillotine productions. You African entertainment. You African entertainment. You Afrikan Kapitalism.
Outlaw Radio is in the building, baby. Move my head around a little bit. Yeah. What's happening, y'all? Outlaw Radio is back with another dope-ass classic track. What you know about that? Yeah. Or what you know about that? Try to tell me what you know about that. Let me know what you know about that. Yeah, coming back with a historic track. What you know about that? Doing everything for black, not the blue. When I come through, I represent everybody that wanna do liberation working. You know we ain't around here irking and jerking. We just trying to get free and get the money. And all that bullshit, it ain't funny. Sitting at the top of the throne, I'm going home. If you wanna fuck with my chrome, I'm going home. I mean, I got the chrome. Hold up. Never mind. Oh man, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Shout out to the ancestors. 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 Yeah. Shout out Malik Kalam. Shout out Matulu Shakur, Tupac Shakur. Shout out to Afeni Shakur, Sada Shakur. Shout out to all your personal ancestors. I want to give a shout out to all the political prisoners too. All the political prisoners, prisoners of war. If y'all didn't notice, the pollen is active, y'all. The pollen is active and it's got your boy, it's got me. So if I do a little bit of sniffling and whatnot today, y'all forgive me. Charge it to my head, not my heart. I won't keep apologizing to you about it though. I won't keep belaboring that. But I just want to let you know that it is it's hard out here for a pimp. Hard out here for a pimp when you trying to get their money for the rent. Hey, real quick, I wanna while we talking about stuff that's popping, I wanna let y'all hear. So I like working with AI, man. I get real hands-on with the AI tools, and I used AI to create like a theme song for Outlaw Radio. I want y'all to check it out. Let me know what y'all think about it. Now, I ain't gonna lie, it ain't the best. I got high standards when it comes to hip hop music. You know what I'm saying? The rap. So you start telling me, oh man, this some rapping, da 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 da. I'm listening for the bars. I'm trying to hear the, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's AI. So AI gonna do what AI does. But I just want to let y'all know what's going on out here. Let me pause this. I want to let y'all know what's going on out here in the AI world and all of the possibilities that come out here. So if y'all are, trying to get your faceless YouTube stuff on or create content, you definitely can do so utilizing AI. But this is what we created, the Outlaw Radio theme song. It's like we say Zalute. So y'all give me a little feedback. Let me know what y'all think about this joint.
Liberation is live. Intelligence. Lord or piano will shield in the tactical harness. Navigate in the darkness with the poise of a partner. Managing the margins, we harvest the logic. Brioni silk pocket squares soaked in the product. Clinical posture improvement is proof of the blueprint. Heavily invested in the mental architectures. Exacting the pressure, dodging the conjectures. Reading the barometers, adjusting the parameters. Bespoke tailoring for the revolutionary veteran. Higher level echelon, the spiritual medicine. Quarterly reports delivered in a leather briefcase. Maintaining the pace, iron grip on the Wheat play. The syndicate is sovereign, the wealth is internal. No accidental gestures in the board meeting. The enemies are retreating, the victory is repeating. We see it all, the vision is absolute. Outlaw Rio, digital liberation. Black intelligence, we say salute, salute. The pedigree is heavy, the mission is absolute, absolute. We say salute, salute. Outlaw Rio, digital liberation. Black intelligence, we say salute. The interrogation begins with a cold stare. Checking our intensity of the soul there. If you ain't skinning the game, you a ghost.
That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part on that joint. But yeah, man, so and it's, like I said, it's AI, so it does what it does. It says something like dodging the conjectures. I don't know what the fuck that was. This shit making up words, but so listen, don't be trying to use AI to make your next hit. It ain't ready for that just yet. But it can create some AI slop for you to be able to throw on top of something, be able to push it for something that's actually useful out here or of value. So that's what's out here. I just wanted to put that out there for y'all, man. But anyway, Street Scholar Report. Street Scholar Report. A lot going on in the world, man. A lot going on in the world. Hold on, man. We gotta have our daily squabbles with technology. We had this show. But yeah, so Street Scholar Report. First things first, I'm gonna give a shout out to all of the Atlanta TSA workers, really anybody working for the government right now, working for TSA in particular. Aim to get paid. They've been showing up for work anyway. Some folks just haven't been showing up for work, which I understand. I wouldn't be showing up for work either, man, if they wouldn't pay me. I ain't gonna lie. What they do, and this is part of why we need to work on really clarifying where we stand in terms of liberation, what truly is liberation. Because these folks, they don't feel like they're free to just not go to work once we are going to work. Because a lot of these employers, they create incentives or they create certain motivations, rather, I'll say, where it's like you need to come to work or else when things get back to normal, you might not have a job. And for somebody who finds it difficult to find employment, and working at the airport is probably the best job they had, that's really like a real big threat. So, you know, shout out to the TSA workers, man. We need to figure out how to get y'all some support. It's kind of out of my lane to support folks who are TSA workers, but at the same time, it's in my lane. I'm just not empowered enough to do it all by myself. So this type of stuff that we need to have coalition conversations about. All the folks in the community, man, when y'all have things like this come up, let's not just hear it as news. Let's hear it as another thing to tackle. This is part of my pushback to a lot of these organizations that have so many committees and so many groups and you know, all this different stuff that they have to separate themselves in the conversation, but the day-to-day stuff that serves our community often gets left on the table because folks are a little bit too busy to focus on that because they got their ideological conversations to have. So let's focus on that. I mean, this is a vulnerable population when it comes to employment. So shout out to them. Also, man, if y'all been following this Iran war, this war that Israel declared on Iran and asked America to support them in, and America's now trying to get everybody else to support, which that's not going too well for America. I think most of the European Union is cool on jumping into a war that they don't even know the exit strategy. I think that's the big thing too. A lot of folks are like, what's the exit strategy? And if you don't have one, I would hesitate to get involved with that war. I don't know why you would be mad at somebody because they don't want to be involved with a forever war that don't have an exit strategy. I don't know, whatever. But that's how it is out here in the politics world. But when it comes to Iran, there's now some talk of Iran potentially launching missiles towards the Ukraine. Because, you know, Ukraine has been supporting Israel with support on how to combat the drone attacks they've been receiving. Because if you haven't been focusing on what's been going on, haven't been really following what's going on, one of the big news issues is how Israel and America are launching very expensive projectiles and missiles at Iran, and Iran is taking them out with $1,000 drones, and the amount of money being spent is disproportionate on both sides. So Ukraine took up the task of assisting Israel in that regard by sending them some intelligence when it comes to that. So Iran has taken that as them stepping into the war and is talking about shooting them as well. Now, a lot of people they keep saying, is this world war? Is this the start of world war? Is world war starting? I would argue that world war started last year or maybe even 2024. Whenever the Ukraine conflict started, that really looked like a world war in the sense that Ukraine has its connections with the EU and with America, and then Russia has its proxies. And we even got people from Africa who fight in that war, man. Folks in Africa who are aligned with Russia are in Ukraine right now fighting this war. And it's already been a world war at that point, but then you would start involving the conflicts that are going on. Israel was already kind of knee deep in some stuff that they were dealing with Gaza, and then the 12-day war with Iran, and then running it right back with Iran. That's just keeping that up. So it's really it really is a world war at this point. So look out for more to come from that. Also, man, shout out to Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan and all the folks from Sinners. Congratulate you all for your amazing accomplishments winning the Oscar. Oftentimes when we talk about these things, we're celebrating the individuals who win. And I'm definitely a fan of Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler and the whole cast of Sinners. I think all of those folks are amazing actors and actresses. So I'm extremely proud of them. And that just shows the amount of cultural capital that we have as foundational Black Americans here in this continent. However, what one of the things that I like to highlight is how much we often celebrate these individuals because we don't have institutions to celebrate. We don't have a lot of institutional victories to celebrate. So we have to celebrate what we can. And that's like the big thing in our community where it's like, well, they doing something. Well, at least they doing, and it's like, at least they is a significant runner-up for the fact that we don't have institutions. But that might be me being a little bit too intense. I have been called intense before. We just need to celebrate Michael B. Jordan and shut the fuck up, right? But anyway, so I think that is going to do it for my Street Scholar Report. Street Scholar Report is over. And if you haven't noticed, I'm working on new music transitions as well. When it comes to Street Scholar Report now has its own music because the Street Scholar Report has taken on its own personality and will soon be its own piece. Not like a podcast per se, more like a teach-in where we teaching lessons, giving y'all a lot of good game. So look out for that really, really, really soon. Now, today we are here because we're talking about this whole debate between I don't know. Sometimes I throw myself off with how I talk because my accent is partially where I'm from and it's partially how I think. My brain moves a lot faster than my mouth sometimes. But I digress. So we're here talking about democratic socialism versus new African capitalism. New African capitalism versus democratic socialism. Which one is most appropriate to build power for our people? And y'all know this show is a strategic show, so we keep it on a strategic position, strategic conversation. So we try to stay away from a lot of the emotion when it comes to these conversations, because this comparison can get emotional if you're talking about pure socialism versus pure capitalism. But that's not quite what we're talking about right now. Socialism, of course, democratic socialism is considered the new and improved version of socialism. So whenever we have this conversation of socialism and say, well, the examples from the past of socialism haven't quite yielded the best examples of success, a lot of people say, hey, those weren't real socialists. Organizations or nations or movements. That was like the fake socialism, or it was socialism, but it was a lot of corruption going on, or there was outside influence that was involved with it. So you hear that. And then when you talk about capitalism, there's this whole question about, well, the exploitive position of capitalism and how, like, capitalism in America was founded off of slavery and off of, taking from those who are less fortunate and the people who are more fortunate benefiting proportionally more than the folks who are less fortunate. All these different types of conversations. And I think a lot of times they get real emotional. One, because people aren't often very educated about the other side. So when they hear the other side speak, they automatically are assuming they're hearing somebody who's wrong speaking, and they're engaging the conversation in order to change the other person's opinion, as opposed to learning and sharing ideas, thoughts, and information. So that's where that goes. So I'm gonna do a couple things here. I want to talk about what the democratic socialism is, which kind of alluded to a little bit. I want to talk about what New African capitalism is, why I think they are both different than the typical conversation of capitalism versus communism, and I'll tell you kind of where I want to go with it, where I think the answer lies in this conversation. Now, one of the things that should be obvious is that we are talking about liberation. Black intelligence, liberation. We say Zalute. We all about black liberation. If you're looking at the black political thought spectrum, oftentimes Outlaw Radio positions itself in the revolutionary context, revolutionary black nationalist context, the Pan-African context, and crumble that up with the cultural nationalist context. Quite often, those are a lot of times what you get from us, but you don't really get a pure perspective one way or another. And that's kind of the whole idea around these economic systems. So they have to fit liberation. They have to fit what we're working on. They can't just be treaty liberation concepts, right? So let me give you a little bit of background in this conversation, especially when we talk about New Africa. So sovereignty is really the big plan, the big idea, what we're talking about here. Now, I do want to slow down a second because I do realize that for many people, black liberation does not include sovereignty. For many people, black liberation includes integration into American society, assimilating into American society successfully. Some people want to have equal rights and cultural recognition within society. Some people want to break away, just have a clean break. And, folks want to have a revolution, and folks see that there's some value in being the African self as well as their native self as well. That said, this perspective is a revolutionary black nationalist perspective. The PGRNA, the Provisional Government of Republic of New Afrika, was actually founded in 1968 on the premise of recognizing the fundamental truth, which is that we are not just marginalized citizens seeking integration. We are a captive nation requiring sovereign independence, land and power. So we demand land, we demand power, we demand independence. And these are things that come from the influence of people like Queen Mother Moore, Malcolm X, so on and so forth. Now, we have a shared history as a people here in America. This goes deeper into this conversation that we've been having when we keep talking about the reference of foundational black American. Because foundational black Americans have a shared history here inhabiting North America. For 500 years this year, we've been on this continent. So that being the case, we have claim to land on this continent. We haven't quite been given the opportunity to choose our positioning on that land, however. So that goes into the shared history. Also, we have a common culture as a people. Now, we're not a monolith here. The foundational black Americans are not a monolith. That's why you can have a conversation where somebody mentions the name or the word foundational black American or phrase foundational black American, totally disagree with it, call themselves New African, and literally be saying the same thing. New African is a concept that's more of a political concept. So if I had to clarify for somebody, I'd say that my heritage was foundational black American, and my political association is New African. My economics is so on and so forth. Now, I say that because I know New Africans who are Puerto Rican. I know New Africans who are Jamaican. I know New Africans who are from the continent of Africa. Now, if being a new African meant that you are in first and second generation continent of Africa, so I don't think they were born in Africa. But being somebody who's born in this land in part or born within the American context and part of the Black liberation struggle, you could potentially be considered New African. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a foundational Black American. I think that's a difference. So a lot of people say, why don't you use New African the same way you use foundational Black American? Because foundational Black American is an all-encompassing term for us as Black people in America, without continuing to say Black American or African American. It's just the 2026 version of that. But I digress. But we do have common dialects, common cultures, common customs, common resistance, even though it's not all the same. And then we all subjugated economically. So wealth was extracted by imperialist forces on our backs and by our backs. They literally used us to build this nation. So that new African nation is us. That's where that whole concept comes from. Now, just so we're clear, a lot of people, they hear this whole capitalism piece of the new African capitalism. And they talk about how destructive capitalism is, but really economics is more of a weapon. You use your economics as an offensive and defensive weapon. And money is just one of the tools within that weapon. Just like if you're building a house with a hammer, or you're building code with a computer, you're gonna build power and build businesses with money. And I spell capital with a K just to kind of give you a different sense of what we're talking about. We're not looking at the regular old capitalism, the dusty capitalism. This is that mixed economy capitalism. Capital is the resources used to build things. So your capital could be your labor, your tools, your skills, your intellectual property, so on and so forth. Investment is using money, or you can use people or time today to make more money. Because you're gonna make more money with money. You're gonna make more money with time. You're gonna make more money with people. So the difference between that is making more money with money, that makes you an investor. Making more money with time, that makes you an employee, and making more money with people, that makes you a business owner. And then power, the ability to create change, and let me say it again. So the power is the ability to create change and free the land by any means necessary. To achieve liberation, we must adopt an economic system optimized for rapid wealth creation. So we have to have something optimized for rapid wealth creation. And in my opinion, it's definitely an illusion when it comes to utilizing socialist principles for wealth creation. There's one of the biggest things that kind of bothers me about the democratic socialist concept is the way it operates is extremely bloated. And when I say bloated, it means it's too many people, it's too many heads that get involved in making a decision. And they call it democracy because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is how democracy works. But there are democracies around the world that don't work like that. And I think part of why they don't work like that is because there's a certain level of decorum that is generally understood. Whereas in these spaces, everybody wants to have their opinion and their rights respected. So it's like, it doesn't matter about decorum. I don't like this, so you need to change it. And I think sometimes that lack of discipline can lead to a lack of real growth within the conversation. Also, the ideological diversity, a lot of people feel like that is a plus for them, but in my opinion, it's not. Excuse me. I think the ideological diversity breeds a lot of theoretical infighting. So you got a lot more to fight about. For example, one caucus may feel like we need to help our candidates get elected by having them run in the Democratic Party. Another one might say, you know what, we need to break away from the Democratic Party and have them run on an independent ticket. And then somebody else, some other crew might say, you know what, we need not even get involved in the electoral politics, period. We need to just focus on building our sustainability and our different systems and the things that we want to have whenever the system falls. So all of these different modes, and they're not just modes that people think and talk about, they're accepted modes of movement within this organization, meaning that you could literally be part of the same organization and never cross paths in terms of community work. And I think that's an issue. Also, socialist concepts rely on state intervention. And here's where the issue lies. Because oftentimes they say, well, it's a distribution of wealth, and the rich, if you've got this amount of money, this threshold of money, then you deserve to pay taxes and pay your fair share. So somebody who doesn't have what you have gets to have. Now, this is my issue with that, because the assumption is that everybody who's rich was always rich, and they just are horrible people because they're rich. They're going to stay rich unless we make them not be rich. And the reality of it is that a lot of people who are millionaires became so out of poverty or out of financial bind. Like, these people weren't born millionaires. They were self-made. New money. So for somebody to become a millionaire because they worked hard and they brought themselves out of poverty, to then have to turn back around and go closer to poverty because somebody else believes that their money isn't their money, it should be the people's money, that's a problem. That's a problem. And if you're doing it on a state level when it comes to elections, all you're going to do is run people out of your state. Folks are moving out of New York like crazy because they don't want to be socialists, because the socialists are having to pay 30% taxes. And who really wants to pay taxes, let alone 30%? That's crazy. Also, one thing I think there's an issue is there's this focus on redistribution of wealth rather than creation of wealth. And it makes it seem like wealth is finite. Like, all the wealth that's been created has been created, or that will be created has been created. There's no more room for any wealth growth. And when you have that frame of mind, it just makes it seem like we just need to move money around in order to make things happen. It takes away creativity. It takes away from this whole idea of let's work harder to make more money, because now you just have to move money away from the rich and move it towards somebody else who's poor. Eventually, you're going to run out of money, because everybody on the planet, if they got some money, could probably be a millionaire if you took all the money that everybody had and evenly distributed it. You might could get every American citizen to become a millionaire. Might happen. And two, the fact that there was no mental transformation into somebody who can manage $1 million. There was no conversation about how to manage that $1 million. There was no talk about what it takes to keep that $1 million so you don't lose it to taxes and all kind of other crazy stuff. You don't have that conversation, so there's no responsible money management. And you cannot build sovereign black institutions while permanently debating strategy in a heavily fractured white majority coalition. Because let's face it, y'all, the socialist position is full of white people. So is capitalism. But we have examples of black capitalism. Black Wall Street being the most shining one. But we have more examples of black capitalism. We don't have that example of black socialism, especially one that works. So that's where that comes in. We talk about that. Now, we do have to acknowledge that there is a voluntary exchange that takes place. Now, when you're in the old system and you're in the system of socialism, you have, when I say the old system, I'm talking about like the feudalism and all that kind of stuff. For the most part, history, who you're going to be is who you're born as, and when you die, you're going to be that same person. That was throughout history, and that's changed since this whole idea of passive contract. Within a capitalist society, birthright casts were replaced with voluntary freestanding agreements enforced by law. So there's a legal agreement that people can make that will allow them to pick themselves up out of poverty if they so choose. I know that was gross. I'm sorry. But here's one thing that I do hear a lot. Golly, we have technical difficulty with the nose, shouted. But here's one thing I hear a lot when it comes to people who argue against capitalism, and even New African capitalism to a certain extent. People don't like to bundle it in. They talk about this whole piece where people are exploited. It's an exploitative thing, and that's the reason why I say New African capitalism. So I think the whole New African point of it is to transform it into a liberation psychology, make it a liberation point. When you have these economies that utilize capitalism to take advantage of people and destroy people, it doesn't necessarily always even create the best economy, the U.S. being an example of that, because it's a mixed economy. It's not necessarily a capitalist, 100% capitalist society per se. It's a mixed society. However, it leans more so toward capitalism, and it preaches capitalism. New African capitalism isn't quite that same type of energy. The whole state-led idea for me is an issue because just as much as somebody who's a capitalist could be evil and misuse funds and misappropriate funds, so can the state. And every example that we have of socialism shows them doing that. But to be a successful modern powerhouse, you gotta be in the middle. And I think the New African capitalist concept is able to take some of the best wealth generation algorithms out of capitalism and fuse it with human-centric safety nets for our community. So here's a formula when it comes to optimizing New African capitalism. We take concepts that come from the PGRNA, this whole idea, the goal of an independent black nation. And then we take some of the black capitalist concepts of the UNIA institution building and the Ujamaa that comes from that, and community infrastructure. And we optimize, we take the optimized tech capitalism concept, the wealth generating engine, and we put that together, and that gives us New African capitalism. Excuse me for a second. We back. Golly. Paula doing a number on your boy, man. Had to take a step back. But anyway, the Black Star Line lesson is Marcus Garvey talking about how Marcus Garvey was able to build the Black Star Line with the investments of a large number of small donations. So there wasn't like a large donor group or some angel investor or some millionaire donor or billionaire donor that allowed the Black Star Line to materialize. That actually was a situation where the people came together Ujamaa, and we were able to raise the funds to bring that about. Now, this is important because a lot of times it doesn't really matter what economic system you're talking about is going to be great for the future. You need to get your mind right now. And the consumer operating system is oftentimes what a lot of people are operating as, whether they are capitalists, socialists, New African capitalists, democratic socialists, it doesn't matter. And what that means to be, of the consumer mindset is to spend money as opposed to make money. So when you see opportunities to make money, you question them. When you see other people making money, you question them, you kind of push back, but you have no problem spending money. That makes you a consumer. Also, when you're acting financially alone, meaning you don't want to invest with people, you don't want to put your money with people, no co-ops, no investments, no group funds, none of that. You don't want to build a team, you want to act alone. That's making you a consumer. Also, you want to give money to the store. You want to just go holler at the store, and even if you're not shopping at Target per se, don't know how y'all feel about Target. Even if you're not shopping at Target, to even go to a store as opposed to finding a way to own that store, that makes you a consumer. And what I mean by own that store, it could be something as simple as buying stock. Now, this is participating in capitalism, of course, but again, we're talking about the capitalist mindset, the New African capitalist mindset, as opposed to the broke mindset, or the democratic socialist mindset, or the regular capitalist mindset. So people respect the person who owns the store more than they respect the person who shops there. Keep that in mind, y'all. Oh, Lord. Malfunction. So we got some protocols. When we talk about Ujamaa cooperative economics, that really goes into the source code of New African capitalism. It's adopted from traditional concepts to physically and economically remove the colonized nation from the floor of its imperialist economy. So we are what we call it debugging, as I like to say. We're debugging and uninstalling the imperialistic concept of capitalism within the economy, and we are installing the New African concept. So protocol 1 in doing that is to build businesses together. We gotta collectivize, like the pimps would say, collectivize. We gotta build business together, pooling our land together, pulling our capital together. So it's awesome to celebrate individual business owners who are doing a great job. We need more cooperative working, and not necessarily as a co-op per se, just as a partnership or referral system. Or we gotta have more connection is pretty much the goal of that. Protocol 2, you're gonna support each other's businesses. So not just having a business, but supporting somebody else's business. So you got a business, and we never see you shop with no other black business. We never see you out at no events. We never see you doing that, but you got a business and you always online complaining about how people aren't supporting you. Like, they don't want to support me. They don't support black business. Folks is just, they controlled by the white man. And you know how that go. They start talking like that. We support each other's businesses, y'all. We build communities based on traditional family concepts. And protocol 3, keep money circulating in the community, in our networks, in our systems. One of the worst stats that I see is that the black community, foundational black Americans, statistically, the dollar leaves our community in less than half a day. I think it's like half a day now. I think it's like 16 hours or 18 hours or some shit like that. The dollar leaves pretty quickly. And generally speaking, other communities, it circulates. So we gotta eliminate super exploitation We got to eliminate the poverty, and most importantly, we got to eliminate the money mummies, the folks who just the walking dead, the money zombie. They the walking dead. They don't really do any thinking about their money. They don't do any investigating. They don't do any seeking of help. They just put some money in, and when it don't work, they complain about, see, I told you capitalism didn't work. Yeah, that's what they do. Just an example of, how you get money pulled together can make bigger change. Three folks for $2 come together, $6, and get a wholesale candy, sell that thing, get $12. All three of them got $4. That's simple mathematics, y'all. Simple mathematics. Now, Hub 1, when it comes to this whole blueprint of Black Wall Street, is to look at Tulsa, the historical interconnected businesses that were going on in Tulsa. Hub 2 for that would take a more of a global network perspective. Looking at the Digital Chamber of Commerce. Please look that up, the Digital Chamber of Commerce. Structuring and supporting Black entrepreneurs globally. And then you got a hub number 3, which is decentralized capital pool. So the mentorship work, the pooled economic empowerment. One thing I heard Robert Smith talk about is this whole idea that as an angel investor, what they do is they come in and not just provide capital, but also provide guidance that 10x's their abilities. Because the guidance itself is valuable because it's opening doors and opportunities you didn't even know existed. Because I could give you money, but if I don't tell you how to use it, you just hold on to money. You just a rich nigga with no idea. So the infinite algorithm when it comes to how to build national development and raise our people out of poverty on an individual level, the first thing we can do is save. So lock it down before you spend it. Individually, saving money is probably one of the best things you could do. When you get to the point where you understand the market a little bit better, you can start investing in things of that sort, or you got a business model that you feel like can make you rich, you can scale your business. Okay, cool. But you definitely want to master the art of saving. Step 2, once you saved your money, team up with some other people who save their money. It don't make no sense for you all to save money up and get with folks who don't got it, because now everything's gonna fall on you. So you don't want to do that. I think they call susus. People used to have susus. I think they still do them from time to time. But the susu was one of those ways where people put money aside towards a particular project, and let's say houses, right? So they put it down towards buying a mortgage. Everybody ends up at the end of the susu buying a mortgage because everybody had the deposit, the down payment to go into it. Community, right? Community teaming up. And it got solved. So find problems to solve. Everybody knows, not everybody, but as a business owner, you need to know that you have to come up with something to solve in order for your business to be validated. If you have a business that doesn't solve any problems, then who's going to shop with you? And then you want to reinvest your money. Put your money back into the soil. Put your money back into the soil. Let it grow. And it becomes something more. So, in my diagnostic, I didn't go into deep detail of democratic socialism, or really in the new African capitalism. I'm actually going to take a Street Scholar Report episode and talk about new African capitalism. And I guess I could talk about new African socialism while I'm at it in a separate one. So look out for those. But it's going to give you the system diagnostic right now, showing that new African capitalism actually is a superior vehicle for black liberation because New African capitalism emphasizes sovereignty, autonomy, and rapid wealth creation over reforming the existing imperial state and ideological purity. We don't even really worry about trying to make the state better. We're not trying to destroy it. We're not actively destroying the state, but we don't really worry about trying to make it better. We've done enough to build this country. So if we haven't built enough for this country to make it better, then we gotta let things happen in natural selection, as the Yoruba would say. Another thing about why New African capitalism is superior is because it creates innovation, opportunities for ujamaa, as well as voluntary exchange and creation. So that's good for us. Also, it builds independent, self-sustaining Black Wall Streets and the like. So Black Wall Street being a marketplace where black businesses came in and they were able to make the money of the people who walking through that place. So yeah, New African capitalism is the winner, y'all. Now, like I said, I'm gonna be coming through giving you all more information specifically on what New African capitalism is. I'm gonna break down the history of the Republic of New Afrika, the provisional government of the Republic of New Afrika, so that you understand the wider context of New Africa and why, if, in my opinion, if you're talking about building a nation the way New Africa is talking about doing it, you're gonna need to have that mixed economy of New African capitalism to do it. All right, so we're system ready, so just run the code and free the land. Free the land, free the land, by any means necessary. Let me do this though for my final word, because I do want to piggyback a thought on this. Self-determination is one of my favorite Kwanzaa days. Kujichagulia. One of my favorite Kwanzaa days. And one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite Kwanzaa days is because it's on the 27th. And I think 27 is a cool number. I also think it gives a little bit of space for people who celebrate Christmas to start to think about the new year. So when I go through my day on December 27th, I often have interactions that strike me as making me think about what I think about when I think of self-determination. What do I think about when I think of self-determination? Do I think of just trying to be somebody who's contrarian, so during the holidays, I don't celebrate that shit? You know, that's me. Or am I somebody that just goes along to get along because I just want to be around my family, even though that shit aggravates me? How do I approach the holiday? And to a bigger extent, how do I approach dealing with people on a regular basis, day to day? A regular day-to-day person hear me say free the land and doesn't know what land I'm talking about, and maybe not even understand why we're talking about being free. So it's important, y'all. It's important that those of us who understand self-determination and we've chosen the path of being revolutionary, we've chosen the path of being nation builders, that when we have our conversations about self-determination, that we don't turn people off with our conversation. Let's try to keep ourselves from becoming that person, that dude. Every time they come around, oh, there go this nigga. Oh, here go this motherfucker. I don't want to hear this shit they talk about. Or when they come around, they trolling you now. So, hey nigga, we had some white women last night. Da, 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 da. They hitting you with that because they trying to troll you because they don't like the fact that you always coming around with that revolutionary shit. You got to be able to respect the people, walk in your self-determination, and still understand and realize that the majority of people that you're interacting with don't have that level of self-determination. So they are walking, trying to find the answer, and you might just have it. Don't offend them before you give it to them. We live in a stolen government on stolen land, so we speak a stolen language. Black intelligence. Outlaw Radio. Outlaw RBG. Zalute.